Good afternoon, everyone. This is Carrie again from EveryAction, and welcome to today's feature workshop webinar on supporter-generated events. I am joined by my colleague, Katie Sullivan, who is a Product Director of Organizing here at EveryAction, and who is just as excited to talk about this feature as I'm sure all of you are to hear about it. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass this over to Katie, who can get us started.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody. So I am here to talk about supporter-generated events today. Like Carrie said, she's going to be monitoring the question section. So if folks have questions, please enter it in through there. I will try to pause throughout my presentation to ask any questions and to answer any questions. But yeah, definitely welcome them. And yeah, excited to talk to you all about it. So supporter-generated events. And something that we've been talking about doing for a while now, something we're really excited we've been able to offer to our clients as of a couple weeks ago. It's something that is coming out of the organizing world of being able to do more distributed volunteer options. So for some of you who have our volunteer management package, you may know that you can use our open virtual phone bank tool set so that you can have volunteers start calling without needing a login to EveryAction. We also have, for folks who maybe do door-to-door or do street team canvassing, we have Minivan, which also allows folks to basically download a list really easily by setting up an action ID and getting started without needing an EveryAction login. And then the last piece of this was, supporter-generated events. We wanted to give that experience of having your supporters, having your activists, having your volunteers be able to create an event without necessarily needing a login to EveryAction. So what I'm going to walk through today, we have a few components of this feature. The first is our event host form, which is where supporters go to actually create their event. We'll look at the sign up form as well, which is how the supporters will generate attendees to their event. We have an Attendee CheckIn page, which I'll go over a little bit more in depth as well, which your event hosts can use to track their attendees. And then lastly, I'll just show you on the CRM side all of the reporting that comes back in and how you also manage a lot of these supporter generated events. So I'm going to start first with just showing you an event host form. This is obviously, it's like any other online actions form in that you can theme it to whoever you would like. You can add headers and footers. You can customize a lot of the information that is shown here. But the top part, for those of you who are familiar with our online action forms, should be pretty straightforward. You can see that it's collecting contact information about your event host. So again, this is any of your supporters who are looking to host an event would fill out this information. The next section here is where they would actually fill out their event name. So let's say that I'm going to have my supporters phone bank, because I'm going to have them come over and call about a local issue that we really want to get passed next year. I'm going to do it on February 16th. And let's see, we're going to have it for starting at 12:30. We'll go to 2:30. So this is the information that they'll fill out. They can fill out this event description. And basically all of this information is then coming back into what we call the event request queue. And so basically you all at the organization get to decide whether or not to actually approve this event or not. But again, your host fills out this information. They fill out their event name and everything else. And then we have the location information here. The only thing that's required right now is the event location name. So, we'll put EveryAction. I'm at we're in Somerville, and you can fill out this information here. This, again, the only thing that's actually required of an event location is just the name, again, so we can post that when you're actually, driving signups into your event. But this kind of gives you the information that allows you to be able to say like where your where your event is actually going to be hosted, / where your supporters are gathering in order to do that event. One thing I do want to call out is allowing people to discover this event on our website. This does allow you, this is a configurable option as well, but it does allow you to ask your supporters whether or not they want that supporter generated event to show up on your public website. The reason why we added that option is because, during our discovery period, we heard a lot from organizations that, for the events that are in a public place, that's fine. You can continue to, ask people to come to that event. You may not have any restrictions on space or whatever else, but for the events that are being hosted, especially in people's homes, where they don't want their home address to be, on a public website, or they have a limited amount of space in that event space. So maybe they can only host 20 people comfortably, and they don't want to overextend their event attendee list. You may not want that to be public either. You may just want your event host to continue to be able to build for that event, but not necessarily make it a public facing event either. And then lastly, this is just some default language that we include in the terms, although this terms language is configurable as well. This is just, again, to make it clear to folks that, that you are offering to host the event. You'll be, reached out to by the organization, and then, again, that we're just sending information back to the organization. When I hit that I have read and agree to these terms, so what's happening here is that you're getting a confirmation email, which is great, about thank you so much for your event request. So this now goes into the CRM itself, and I'll go to that portion next, where you at the organization can decide whether or not to actually approve that event or not. I'm going to pause here because I think there might be a question about the event host form. So from Eric, it looks like the location name field, does it look up locations from your organization's EveryAction list of locations? Great question. It does not. It's a pretty free-flowing piece of information. We're basically just ingesting that information from your supporter. So they would fill that information, whether or not they're hosting it at, a local restaurant or at their home, et cetera, et cetera. Cool. All right. Thank you, Eric. Great. So now that we have these event requests, I'm going to actually hop over to the CRM. So in our events section, we have this event requests queue, which I will click into. So you can see here that we have some information that's being presented. So we have our pending event requests. So basically this bucket means that these are the event requests that need to get reviewed by your organization in order to get approved or not to be an actual event. You can also look at the other approved events. So we know that these ones actually, yes, they look great. We've approved them out, and they're actually building currently for this event. And you could also look at denied event requests as well. But if I look at the pending requests here, we do see the event host name. We see their email address. We see some of the top line information of, what's the date and time. I can click more. Sometimes if they filled out the event description, actually maybe this Robin Crenshaw one is a little bit better because you can see that there's a description here, and you can understand what they're hoping to get out of this event. It will also give you just the submission data as well, so you can see when did they submit this data, how long has it basically been sitting in the event queue. If I hit approve, so you'll see a few things here when you are actually asked to approve the event. We have something called a template. Again, for those of you who know our online actions tool set, a template allows you to set some default settings around a form. So if you are passing in a theme, if you have some custom JavaScript or whatever else that you want to have on all of your forms, you can actually set that up in a template. That being said, we do have a default template, so you don't even have to think about it. So we can create an event form for you there as well. We also want to actually select a role for the host themselves. This is mostly for reporting purposes to make sure that, we're including the event host in the event themselves. And then also later on, you can do some reporting based on that. So I'm going to hit approve event. And so now it's doing a number of things. Actually, this button kind of is a very powerful button. It's creating an event. It is creating an online sign-up form that gets sent to your event host. And it's also sending an email to that event host to say, thank you so much for signing up. We are, here's the event URL. This is how you can basically keep building for your event. And then it also sends the attendee check-in page, which I'll get to after this. So it's actually a pretty powerful button. It does 3 things at once. So when I go to event details, I can see all this information here at the very top. We know it's an approved supporter generated event. We do pull some top line information here, who the host is, what the date is, and then we also have the online sign up form. So the online sign up form is, I'm just going to click into that. It's a very basic event form. So you can see here that it kind of gives you, again, the top line information about the event. So this is the form that your event host will use and that they will send out to their friends and family and, their acquaintances to ask them, hey, will you please come to my event? I'd love to have you there. So whoever is coming, let's say Jane Smith, who lives at 123 Elm Street. She's going to come to the event. She's going to be a data entry volunteer. We'll put Jane at example.com. Great. So Jane's going to come and she's going to sign up to come to my event. She agrees to the terms. Great. And again, Jane will then get a confirmation email saying, thank you so much for signing up. Here's some information in addition to this thank you page. I'm going to pause here because I think there might be some more questions.
We do have a couple more questions. A couple people have asked, can these be tied to supporter groups? Specifically, can a supporter group get credit for their audience or member events?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, definitely. So it still works the same way as our events, our regular event publishing. So, on the supporter generated, on the event details itself, we have the generic online form. So that can basically be used for your wider audience. However, if you do want to tie it to a specific supporter group, you can actually tie it into that supporter group as well, which will then append the supporter group ID. And so basically when you have signups, in addition to signing that person up for the event, it will also add them into the supporter group as well. So the event request queue shows all event requests for your committee. So basically anyone who has requested an event within your committee, you'll see that event request on the event request queue page. And then the template is something that gets applied to your sign up form. I think also in addition to your attendee check-in page as well.
Thank you. Another question, can we send the host of the event the supporter group form, or do they always get the generic registration link?
So the event host will get the sign up form that gets created when the event gets created. Again, depending on whether or not you have some theming around it, this is a very basic form is maybe the best way I should put it. You will, if you want to put some theming around it or, make it look like, the rest of your forms where you're collecting like your sign up forms and whatever else, you can absolutely do that using the template.
And one more question at this time, can we require an admission fee for supporter generated events?
It's a great question. Not at this time. Oh, I'm sorry. I see Amity's question about supporter form link. So right now they will get the generic registration link in the email. So they would have to work with someone on their team to get a supporter group link for their supporter generated event sign up form. Great. Okay, so we have folks signing up, which is awesome. And so the other thing, in addition to that email where the event host gets this, URL to start, to start building for their event, they will also get what we call the attendee check-in page. So the attendee check-in page, this is for the event host to be able to track who has actually signed up for their event, and also to be able to, after the event has occurred, be able to update the event status to say that this person did attend or did not attend. So this is actually an already created event that one of my colleagues did a couple days ago. So we have 5 people who said that they would sign up. So again, as the event host, I get to see this form, and I get to see, okay, great, I know I have 5 people coming to this event. The only thing we require of our event hosts to be able to get to this form is an action ID. So we do have some level of authentication, in that we do require that they create an action ID. However, they do not need an EveryAction user account. It's really just a little bit of, it's a very basic sign up process where they have their first name, last name, their email address, and then they can then authenticate, and then they can get access to this page. Again, this is really just so we want to make it as lightweight and as easy as possible for our event hosts to be able to see this information. But we did want to have, we want to strike the balance of also having some security around this page, and just knowing, who is accessing this data, et cetera, et cetera. So we see here that I have 5 people who have signed up. Again, this will continue to update as more and more people fill out the attendee web page, the web form. So as I have more people fill it out and say that they'll come, this page will get updated. I did want to call out that you can add a sign up here as well. So if I do that, it's just going to give me a blank version of the form, and I can fill out, if I know that my husband's coming, but I'm not going to make him fill out a page, I can actually just fill out his information here, and he would get added to that attendee check-in page as well. And or if someone is a walk-in to an event. So, you're going to have your people who sign up, but my sister might bring her best friend to the event. The best friend never signed up, but I want to record that she came, so I can add that sign up here as well. Again, to give your organization as much information as possible as what's happening out at these events. And then the nice thing here, I also wanted to show is most of the time you're going to have your event hosts collecting information via their sign up form. That being said, you may have someone who is an offline sign up, basically someone who is signed up for an event on the CRM side. So you may have folks who are doing data entry. You may have your event host is actually a pretty engaged volunteer with your organization, and so they may have an event, a login to their EveryAction, and they may just add, I know that Alexander's going to come to my event, so I'm going to add him to my event, so I'm able to do that as well. So the nice thing is that this page doesn't just show your signups from the event form; it will show it from the CRM side as well. And then the last thing, very nice, is that you can, at the end of your event, say if someone did attend or did not attend. This is going to be very critical, we think, to your reporting on the organization side, so that you know how effective these events are. It's one thing that we heard, especially during our discovery period, that it's great that all these events are happening, but actually knowing who showed up was pretty tricky. The event hosts, if they had a sign-in list, they then had to go and do data entry on that list, or they had to give it to, the staff member that they're working with in order to get that data back into the CRM. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible and as lightweight as possible. I should say that like all of our online forms, this is mobile responsive. So I'll show you here really quick. You'll see that the page here is mobile responsive, and actually the page then also, it'll detect if you're on a phone or not. So we'll have the options that you can actually call. So if you're doing event reminder calls, You can call Carol and say like, hey, just so you remember, like I'm going to be having an event on Saturday. I really want you to come. Similarly with the email address as well. If you wanted to just, send a quick email, Carol, just want to remind you that that my event is coming up, et cetera, et cetera. It is a nice mobile responsive UI as well. Okay, I'm going to pause here because I'm sure there's more questions.
There are, yes. So in addition to the attend and did not attend buttons, is there also a way to do confirmation calls and have a button for confirmed or not confirmed?
It's a great question. So right now, it's something that has come up. We only have currently the status of attended and did not attend, but you may not be surprised to hear we've already gotten requests to be able to add more statuses to this page. So it's definitely something we're taking a look at.
Another question, when somebody RSVPs for the event, are they automatically added to the organization's database? And can you add an email and SMS opt-in on the form sign-up event?
Great questions. So when you sign up, yes, you are getting added to the organization's database. It's just like any other form submission where we are adding that person's information to the database. We're running a match against it to try to prevent dupes, et cetera, et cetera. But you at the organization are getting all of that data. So you know who is signing up. And if I have a little bit of time at the end, I'll show you just like exactly how you can do that reporting on the organization side. And then let me just look at the other. Oh, you for email and SMS opt-in on the event sign-up form, you absolutely can do that as well. You can configure the event form to have that information there. I showed you a very basic form, but we do have the ability to create SMS opt-ins, and you can add email as well.
Okay. Is there a mechanism for the event organizer to get a list of all the email addresses of people and to remind them all at once via email?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you can get at that information. Obviously you do have all the emails here for your event host. So, it's not the sexiest thing ever, but you can do copy and paste into an event form. If your event organizer is working with a staff member, you can use our search tool to be able to look up that event, get all those people's information, and then be able to do a quick export of those people and their emails. So I will, the question that's probably being asked though is like, is there a way for the event host to do a bulk email themselves as part of this functionality? We don't have that functionality built out quite yet, but it's something that definitely has come up and we're interested in taking a look at. Quickly, I'll go back and just show folks like, in terms of on the actual, the database side. So for the event themselves, we have in the participant summary, this will give you, these are just like overall counts of who has signed up. You can then go to view all participants. You can look at all the folks who have come in. So, this is like an easy way of just seeing like how many people have actually signed up for my event. If I go out to event list, we have added, the filter to say like, yes, this is a supporter generated event or not. So if I wanted to look at all of my supporter generated events that have been created in my committee, let me just open up this time frame. I am able to do that here. Similarly, on the event participant list, so this is all the events, these are the events that have gotten created. On the event participant list, I can see all of the people who are participating in a supporter generated event. For those of you who are familiar with our scheduler, we also have the filter there as well. So you can either filter in or out supporter generated events. So if you are doing any scheduling within the database itself, you are able to filter down to just supporter generated events or even filter them out from your scheduler. And then lastly, on the event participant report in our report manager, we have added all of the supporter generated event related data as well. So if you're trying to run some top line numbers on your supporter generated events and how many people are showing up, what the status is, like how many people completed, how many people were scheduled, et cetera, you are able to run that information from our report manager as well.
All right, perfect. And with that, it looks like we're at time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Katie, for running us through that. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Wednesday.